So, welcome everybody to this webinar on some of the key steps to surviving this horrible crisis that we're in right now, but also maybe not just surviving the crisis, but actually more practically, how as leaders can we have the right attitude, the right positive attitude to ensure that not only we survive, but actually we can thrive in these challenging times. So just a little about myself. The good news today is that this is a real friends and family kind of setup. I've limited this to a few people I know because, as I said, this is the very first time that I've ever done a webinar on Zoom. I've done quite a few Zoom calls and actually done a quarterly planning meeting by Zoom this morning, but very different to actually doing it on a webinar, learning how to navigate all the different buttons and all those things. But I've been coaching now for nearly 12 years and probably been working alongside many of you during that time. And I think that's probably just reminding myself when I first started the business 12 years ago, that was exactly the time that we found ourselves in another economic storm and some really challenging times, and trying to navigate that, not just when you first start out as a business, but trying to navigate your way through that when you haven't really got a playbook to do that. So you know, that's been sort of a key learning that we can sort of look back on. So let's sort of really get into this. I think the key thing really as leaders right now, when there is so much doom and gloom around, is to step up and have a positive mindset. It's very easy to stick a head in the sand, very easy to kind of think around, this is just horrible and it's maybe never going to go away. But I'm convinced that those people who surround themselves with positive thinkers, those people who are able to have a positive mindset, will see opportunities, will be able to lead their team through challenging times, will be able to make the right calls. So I think all of you right now, it's about, if you are finding it difficult to reframe or to have those positive mindsets, is just to take stock, maybe get some music on or anything like that, but is to have that positive mindset at all times. Not only to think positive, but just being positive and acting positively. Just to think about yourself really as the conductor of the orchestra right now. You know, your team, you know, are looking for you to make the right calls, to look like you are in grip and in control of the situation. And even though maybe you deep down inside you're not feeling that way, I think it's absolutely critical that you have that ability to do that. Just think of yourself as role models. So you may just, even if you're having a challenging day, just pause, reset, maybe either to play some mood music or stuff like that that gets you into the right mindset, and be the role model that you want to be. And not only that, but I think right now, the difference between the people who are going to be the winners and the losers as we go through these challenging times are, again, having the mindset of, actually, am I just going to play defensive right now, just see if I can hunker down and see this through? Or do you know what? There are going to be opportunities when we come out the other side. There are going to be opportunities to grow and develop the organization to be sharper, to be more focused than we ever before. There may be new markets that come to us. So just make sure that you've got that mindset of playing to win and not trying to play defensive in that way. And I think the other thing that's really key right now, in terms of both the mindset, but is also having that resilience. It's undeniable that over the coming weeks, all of us are going to have some big knocks, big setbacks. And as it remind me, I think Ian Hodgkinson is going to join the call in a bit. You just said it doesn't matter how hard you get hit, it's about your ability to get up and keep going again. And that resilience deep down, knowing what you're doing is the right thing to be doing. Knowing that what you're doing right now is helping other people. Knowing what you're doing is making a difference to people's lives. Having that. And if you struggle with resilience, just dig back into your purpose, dig back into your why, and why you're doing what you're doing. And that then gives you sometimes the strength to prevail when everyone else is giving up. So it just reminded an article I was reading a bit earlier on today. It was kind of in World War II, and again, having the war rooms that Churchill had, and that the Germans are convinced they were going to win that, just literally they bombed London to heck, and everyone would kind of give up. But after a while, people became accustomed. It became this kind of new norm to get bombed every day and became resilient. And I think that analogy of right now we're in times that are challenging, but that resiliency will come to the fore, and we will prevail and we'll get through this. The other trait I really want you to think about right now is this trait of excellence. Is to demand of yourself to be better every single day as a leader, to be demanding of yourself that you're going to step up, demanding yourself to have that passion, demanding of your others around you that if you are being the best that you can be every day, inspire them to give more, inspire them to be the best that they can be. And by doing that, people can maybe share your inspiration, can share new areas of creativity, innovation, but asking them, not demanding, but asking them to give you their best every single day. I think that's so important right now. And it is so easy to get distracted. It's easy, you know. Every single day there's WhatsApp messages coming through. There are new news breaks coming through. There's everything that's kind of take us off course. But by being laser-like focused, what's important, what's going to be important over the next 90 days, and having the courage to be able to really commit to doing those things. Yeah, I think there will be areas that there'll be distractions. I think the other thing that you can do is, when you are clear about making the main thing, as Stephen Covey rightly teaches us, is being able to really commit to that and to be able to communicate with that, why that's so important right now, when it's so easy to get distracted and lose sight of that. So doing that is critical. And reverting back to the core values, your core values, they become the real compass right now in these challenging times, between what's right and what's wrong, between making big decisions that could fundamentally impact your team, make fundamental impact your customers and yourselves as well. Really being able to really dig deep back into your values. As Mahatma Gandhi says, you kind of, when you think about your beliefs, become your thoughts, and your thoughts become your words, and your words become your actions. Your actions become your habits become your values, and ultimately then your values become your destiny. And it's really worth dusting those down again, living them every single day, living them in your communication. The team that we just come off the call with this morning, Aegis Engineering, they've been able to go right back to their values to guide them in these challenging times. And all the communication that Mark and Chris are doing right now looks back to the fact that, you know, we care, we genuinely care. It's one of our values. You know, we care about our team, we care about our colleagues, we care about our suppliers, we care about our customers, and that becomes all of the communication comes back to, well, why wouldn't we do this way? Because that's what our values are, and we care deeply about them. We can go back and remind our team about excellence and doing the right thing, and those guiding rules, as you were, allow you in these challenging times just to really remind yourself what's important, what's not important, and importantly, to remind your team day in and day out, what do we stand for? What are our values around that? And equally, I think, you know, it was only a few months back we were kind of setting down the goals and the key objectives for the year ahead, and obviously, last few weeks that's just been ripped up almost. That's kind of straight. I mean, for some people, yeah, right now that might be accelerated. You know, this mess, this crisis might just be able to, you know, provide them with huge opportunities. We're broadcasting this on Zoom right now. You've got to imagine that Zoom, you know, probably never ever been so busy. Probably the same with the supermarkets. But for many of us, having a plan for the next 90 days is so important. You know, almost to rip up and say, right now, we set the button. What are the things we need to get done over the next 90 days to do that? So, as I said, this is all a bit of trial and error today, but I'm going to do first up. I'm going to launch a poll, and what I'd like you to do right now is just get into the poll, click on which of these is your number one challenge right now, and we'll see you know, what comes up from that. If you can just, can everyone see the poll? Okay.
I see the word poll.
Perfectly.
Yeah, looks as if one coming in right now. Yeah, if you just the next few seconds, just press yours. Got one at cash is number one challenge, one strategy coming through. Execution, good. Yeah, just keep going. We've got a few more to come in right now. Just if you can press your poll, please. All right, strategy seems to be coming 60% view on strategy right now. A couple more, if you can just get that done, that'd be great. Okay, let's and that poll there. Okay, so just again, strategy seems to come out on top. Execution chat. What's interesting, everybody's got the right level of motivation, so that's good to see from that perspective. All right, so what I want to focus on through this session is the 5 C's for really leading through a crisis, and they are communication. They're making sure that you've got real focus, intimate focus with your customer and your community. Clean up and catch up, making sure you don't run out of cash, and being calm and considerate. So those are the areas I just want to think. So first up, let's have a look at this whole area. What you can do as leaders about communication. I think I've been saying consistently right now that if you think you're over communicating, you're probably way off by a huge amount. You cannot believe the importance of communicating right now to your colleagues, to your customers, to your suppliers, to your community. Every single stakeholder. Have you got a plan to just really stay in touch, act as leaders, really hone in on that? And so let's think about this in terms of break this down for a minute. I think most importantly, this notion of repetition. There's so many messages bombarding all your team at the moment. It's so important just to make sure that they are crystal clear. What is it that's the main thing? And I think the other thing as leaders right now is your role is to be able to filter out the key messages, filter out what is really happening, what's really happening in your industry, what's really happening in your marketplace, what's really happening with your customers, what's really happening across the piece, because there's so much not just negative news, but almost as Grumpy would say, sort of fake news going on. And I think as leaders to be able to be really clear about what is happening in there and put your perspective on it around these things. So I'm sure many of you right now have moved very quickly from having huddles and meetings where you're face to face to the session that we had this morning with one of the clients. So going through their quarterly planning session was all done online. Everyone's there. And I think now, we've got the ability through, this is on Zoom and there's Hangouts, a whole raft of other sort of medium now, but this is a game changer. And making sure that first up, you've got some really good processes in place to communicate efficiently. One thing I'd really recommend you do is to have a daily huddle every single morning. In fact, probably a lot of people are having a huddle in the morning and a huddle in the afternoon now, just to make sure that more than ever before, rather than just a sort of good news and check-in with one another. Is everyone okay? Is everyone in a good place? Is everybody, up for the day ahead? To re-emphasize what's important right now, to be able to talk quite candidly about what's gone well, but equally do not sugarcoat the bad news either. If there's bad news, make sure that you are candid with what's going on, that you are able to put the message across so everyone understands what the situation is. Help people, remind people, what is their daily priority? Have they got meaningful work to do? And make sure that they're in a position that they got stucks. If there's things that they need help on, that you've got a really good structure that people can do just that. So I think that's really important. And also just make sure that you've got a plan in place for remote working. I think people are scrambling right now to think, oh my goodness, that's one thing, people working from home, but are they able to effectively work from home, knowing that they've got the kids there? They may be having to work in a back room somewhere. They may be working in an environment that is really challenging for them. So again, make sure that you've got a plan in place for people to work effectively from home, and you're doing that. Second area, talked about communication. Actually, let's go back just to remind ourselves a bit more about communication before we come into sort of the customers. I think obviously communicating with your team is one thing, but also just to remind yourself just to keep in touch with some of your other key stakeholders. So communicating with your banks, communicating with your suppliers, what's going on. We'll talk about your customers in a minute. But also think about what can you do as a leader to step up in your community? What can you do to really take a role, maybe a leadership role, to speak to government? I know that there's a number of people who, certainly I think Stuart Ross may well be online. No, Stuart's on the line. In Nottingham, Stuart and Serena Humphrey be doing an amazing job to bring that whole business community together, in terms of, you know, what's happening, what's the latest in terms of how you can access finance and all those things. So communicating is an area that you can step up. And I think Yvonne is on the line as well. Yvonne takes a great role in terms of lobbying government and having that small business perspective of what we need right now. So I think we can't under communicate to those areas. So have a plan around that. Now, obviously, it's been really difficult over the last few weeks in terms of what's best for your customer, knowing that many of them are fighting for survival. Many of them are figuring out right now what they can do to keep their businesses going, what they can do to hold on to many of their employees, their trusted employees they possibly can do. It's been a very, very challenging time for many people. My sense is that in the next week or so, things will not calm down, but that will be clearer around how that's going to pan out. And then it's so important just to make sure that you've got a regular communication, you know, with your customers, making sure that they're okay, making sure that, you know, you are serving them as best you can do, making sure that you know, without fear of favour, whatever it is, that, you know, they are able to continue to go, and wherever possible, really adding value to that experience. So I think the real notion is that, you know, we are here to help right now. No favours asked. We are here to help you, and, you know, there may well be growth sectors where they're really going to appreciate. They're really going to appreciate that mindset. There may be others who are looking to take on employees right now who are just, you know, flat to the boards, you know, trying to figure out how they can keep up with all their potential growth things. But there are also a lot of other people may not be in that perspective. So just think about how you can go the extra mile, and do that. I tell you what, just to see who's Yvonne. I'm going to bring you, just ask you just a quick question right now, if you want to bring yourself off mute. Yeah. I think you often are someone in our community who does go the extra mile for your customers. I'm one of them, so I see it firsthand. What sort of things are you doing right now to go that extra mile to make a difference?
Well, I'm just in the middle of constructing our e-shop that's going to go out on the 1st of April, which is our company's 9th birthday.
Can you just come to the microphone a bit more, Yvonne? Just can't hear you quite so well.
Oh, all right. That better?
Bit better, yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just in the middle of writing an e-shop that was going to go out on the company's 9th birthday next week, explaining that we're asking our customers to help us by paying invoices early if they possibly can, but help is a two-way street. If at all, if they need printing from us, and we can still fulfill orders, if they need printing from us after the 1st of April, but they need to spread their costs over a couple of months or 3 months, then to let us know. We can help them if they can help us. Yeah,
beautiful, beautiful. So I think that's just an example of, just honing in right now, and thinking about what can each do, just to feel that we understand other people's pain, understand what the challenges they're going through, and it's those little areas of generosity or helping out with payment terms that may make all the difference. And as Vern Harnish has been teaching me and a lot of our clients over the past couple of years. But right now, how can we make it as easy as possible for people to do business with us, and to take away all the challenges, and to let them know that we care about them. So I think it's never been more important to go the extra mile. How do we make it easy? And also to reflect on what are our brand promises? What do we stand for? And in these challenging times, can we double down on our promises more? I'm convinced that if the law of, and I can never really pronounce this particularly well, but the law of reciprocity, that those people who do well by others right now, they'll be remembered for it for a long time. I think it's just that mindset. We may have to endure some challenging times ourselves, but coming out the other side, I think people will remember for that. And that also, just a practical thing here, have a think about, maybe just write down on your pad of paper, who are the top 25 or top 5, who are the top 25 relationships I need to nurture, really nurture like never before, to make sure I make calls through, make sure that that they're okay. This may lead to some tremendous opportunities coming out the other side. Who are the people maybe I didn't have the courage to connect with beforehand, but they could be leaders in our space, or they could be that. But just write down, as an exercise coming out of this, who are the top 25 relationships I'm just going to really work on. I'll tell you the other thing that's great at the moment, having got 2 daughters back from London, but also an opportunity to connect with friends that you haven't connected with for ages, or to people that you've been putting that off. So I think there's that's certainly an area to think about as well. So we've talked so far about communication. We've talked so far about the importance of looking after our customers and our communities as well. I think probably this next section, certainly over the next month or so, is absolutely critical. Just as Yvonne was saying about helping others with their cash flow. Cash is king, but right now, cash is more than king. Cash is everything. Cash is the oxygen of the business, and it's easier, obviously a lot easier right now if you've got good cash reserves, if you've been prudent and stuff like that. Not necessarily the case for everybody, but here's some areas in terms of thinking through. Again, this old adage that turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. Boy, isn't that right now? Just came off a call with Alan Milts, dear friend of mine who's based in Australia, and we're going to run a number of masterclasses together. But these are the areas that we'd be sort of really sort of honing in right now. Number one, over the next few months, survival is absolutely key. We get that, we understand that, and a bit like the seasons, as we go into maybe an economic winter over the next few months, just the other side of winter is spring, and things start growing again in spring. But right now we need to cut back. When you're a farmer, you go into the winter, you kind of cull, get rid of the old machinery, you cull the old stock. You kind of you have to pare back. You have to, just like if you're in the vineyard, you have to cut back the vines so that they're able to grow more quickly when you come back in the spring. I think that's just the same at the moment. In using that analogy, that as we come out of the winter, we're well set, and we've got the cash to move us forward. So first thing we need to make sure is, wherever possible, we preserve our cash right now. So a couple of thoughts around this. First up, robust cash flow forecasting. So again, we did this on the planning session this morning, running some best, medium, worst case scenarios for revenue. What if we maintain all of our business? Great. What if we lose a number of key clients? What if we kind of lose half our business? Christ, what happens if we lose everything? Having some scenarios that you run through, and cash flow model around that would be a good thing to talk with the team to understand where they see it from customers, where's revenue coming in, where may be sort of revenue that could be compromised around that. So that just have it around that. Number two, if you're carrying too much stock right now, just whatever, just reduce your stock levels. Thirdly, debtors, getting on top of your debtors. And right now, they've either got your money in their bank account for the work that you may have done, or you need to get the money into your bank account. And again, it's just making sure that you've got really good process in place to get money coming in. Don't be shy of bringing people up and asking for the money. You know, that's right now. They work with you because you provide a valuable service. The worst thing that they could have is for you to go out of business because you run out of cash. You know, you won't be able to serve them anymore. So they get that. But making sure that you've got visibility to debtors, make sure you've got a plan to get on top of your debtors and working that through day in and day out, and working through with your team as well. Also, you need to be alive to right now that some of your customers may be in a perilous state, and just need to find out, you know, where is their health, where the risk likely to be around that. And just as Yvonne was talking about, again, maybe making an ability to prioritize payments, you know, with suppliers and all those other areas. Also, I think fair play to the Chancellor. He's doing as good a job as he possibly can do in terms of opening up, you know, for funding and for bank loans, and for potentially helping those who may have to furlough some of your staff. There's that. On the other side, probably money, if you're able to, money's never been quite so, you know, so cheap. The cost of borrowing money is almost as cheap as it's ever been. So that might be an opportunity as well. So looking at other cash sources around that, negotiate with. Obviously, I think we can see now that we're able to push things back, like with VAT, and I think just to bring Chris, are you on the line right now?
Yeah, I'm here now. Yeah.
What we talking on the call this morning? Did you say that there's opportunity to defer pay as you earn as well?
Yeah,
I
believe so.
Right.
I'm not entirely certain yet, but I think I've seen some stuff amongst the millions of emails and WhatsApp messages about that. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to bring in Stuart. Stuart, are you able to just come off mute for a second?
Yeah.
So Stuart, you've been doing a tremendous bit of work with Serena and others, just getting a grip of what's going on with support, with government support. What's your perspective right now on what's available?
I think the devil's in the detail. So
yes.
From an overall perspective, it looks very positive in terms of the government helping businesses. But come back to, there's a lot of detail to be worked out, and it'd be interesting how that pans out over the next sort of few weeks. The key challenge, I think, is regardless, the cash will not get into businesses until May or June time at the earliest. So businesses from a cash point of view need to make sure they survive and do everything possible to preserve cash in the business for the next couple of months.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we can't reiterate that enough in terms of preservation of cash, and literally having a war room, and you've got the cash figure coming in daily, where it is, and looking at the whole cash flow daily is going to be absolutely critical. The other thing you want to think about as well is just looking at your overheads. Where can you cut back on overheads right now? It's clear that, you know, when you start coming into an area where you have to get sort of more mean and lean, that you may be, I don't know, paying for 2 CRM systems. You may be, you know, paying for memberships you don't require anymore. There's maybe wastage that, you know, in good times you hadn't seen, but you can just go back and reflect on. So making sure that you've got a plan to reduce those costs as well. So I think doing that. Just got a couple of chats coming in here, sort of thing from Yvonne. Yvonne just going to open up and talk about a war room. So Yvonne, just talk to us about your war room.
Hi Neil, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you fine.
So once it's all kicked off, I've always got a dashboard that's up to date anyway on a spreadsheet. But once it's kicked off, it was a case of, right, let's going to step it up a notch, create a new tab called Hulk mode.
Right.
That needed a bit more, I think it needed a bit more than just an average spreadsheet. So on there, I've got everyone who owes me money and how much from now until the end of April, all outgoings and what's going to be going out by between now and the end of April as well. So I've got this nice figure of what I've got left, and also for May and June, because like Stuart just said, if things aren't going to be coming into the bank in terms of grants and bank loans and whatnot, and the furloughing reimbursement till the end of April, the very, very earliest, I need to find out what surplus do I need to find to keep things afloat.
Good. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So, it's just making sure that, all of you do whatever it takes to preserve your cash. Just make sure that, again, looking at the overheads, almost go line by line, from your overheads, and asking, for, we're seeing right now, people who have got maybe some of their other big outgoings like rents, could they freeze their rent for 2 or 3 months? And landlords seem to be, reasonably open to those sort of conversations. Not saying they're always going to give it, but there is a degree of clemency. You get the old adage, what you don't ask, you don't get, around that. So I think, again, tightening up on processes wherever you can do, it's just having that, reducing the costs. But at the same time, one of the things that we talked with Alan Milts is not just cutting back, but actually, if there is areas that you may want to invest in, is making sure that the last thing you want to do is cut back on marketing. So right now, you've got to believe that all of your competitors are going to be cutting right back on their marketing and their team. If you've got an ability to manage your cash, but also then to get to work on clever marketing, don't need to spend a lot of money, but just being really clever, adding value to the industry. There are right now, one of the things that I'm learning to use is click funnels, and it's kind of one of the new ways of marketing. So I think you're dusting down your marketing skill sets, so you can do that. Having a sniper focus on your key relationships, and looking after your customers. Also, perfect opportunity now to also look at your pricing strategy. An area that maybe you can look at and think about new ways of pricing that's going to add value to that. And for those of you who've got sales teams, over the coming months, they may be one hand just keeping in touch with your customers, but also an opportunity for them to speak to their prospects about what's happening in the market, where their pain is. Not selling necessarily too much, but also just to to keep those relationships going. But then in a place where you can also train them and sharpen the saw to do that. So I think some of these things we've touched on, making sure that you're alive to the business rates relief, government backed loans we've talked about. There may be opportunity for this sort of £10,000 grant for really small businesses, being able to negotiate, and discussion with HMRC to push back maybe VAT payments and those sort of areas. But also, you said just be alive to the fact there might be some cheap finance. And then for those who use Facebook, I'm not exactly sure what this looks like, but I've got this hunch that there may be, and you can go on to, I'll send the link around afterwards, but there is, I think, something like £3,000 grants on Facebook, which you can then put towards advertising. If anyone wants to put into chat to know any more about that or put a hand up, that'd be great around that. And then one of my clients, manufacturing companies, using this power of one notion to model just an area. So what does it mean if we actually go in and get in accounts receivable days? So this particular company, every single day that they get in, improve their account receivable days, brings another £70,000 into business. So it's, again, having a team of people looking at that with a view to how's the impact on cash flow, what's the impact on profitability, and just having the power of one. What I'm also going to do, I had this catch up with Alan earlier in the week, Alan Milts, and he's got a complimentary, just a little stress test my business. So I'll send this round to all the people on the call today. You can then literally put in your numbers, 6 numbers, and it'll just see a very quick stress test as to where you are right now. So that's cash. Next thing I just want to think about is, interesting, we sort of saw about the economic seasons a few minutes ago, but as we enter sort of into spring cleaning, we'd be starting to think about cleaning up our backyards right now in the house, is what can you do to have a really good cleanup in the business right now? For me, I've just realized that I haven't really been paying great attention to my LinkedIn site, to my website, to YouTube. It hasn't been on the radar, so it's suddenly you think, oh my goodness, there's a whole raft of things I can just clean that up and make it look better, and focus on that. But this is a great time just to go around in terms of looking at some of the process and systems that weren't working very well, and just making sure that they're running more effectively. They're faster. They're better equipped. So again, it's those things you kind of been putting off for forever. Is just say, okay, right now, if we can't do quite so much with our customers, is what can we do to get our house in order? Getting our house in order so that when the spring really kicks back in again, we're fully able to capitalize. We're able to be out of the blocks faster than everyone else. So again, it's having that sort of mindset around doing just that. One of the books you might want to look at is guy Paul Akers, a brilliant book in 2 Second Lean. And Paul is able to find, just sort of improvements all around us. I think one of the advocates, I just think, who we got on the call right now, you might just dropped off a few seconds ago, but someone who used it, when he comes back on again, we'll reflect on that, is how you can go about just using this sort of two second area to find all around you, not just in the house, but across the business, little improvements. I think it was Dave Brailsford who talked about marginal gains, 1% improvements. In itself doesn't make a huge difference, but compounded on top of one another, 1% can have a huge impact. So that'd be a really good book right now to have a look at, read, and see what you can do around that. And a dear friend of mine, Gene Brown, from the City Bin Company in Galway, Ireland, probably a couple of years ago, came up with this wonderful theme that they ran for, I think it was probably 3 months to start with, but it became so popular they kind of went with it for quite a while. And the theme is called Bin It. And they invited their employees to come up with any old redundant systems, any redundant, even, I think Gene reflected on it, said he'd been asking, and I think it was his PA or his secretary been asked her 2 years beforehand for a report that may have taken her about an hour to produce each week. And he forgot to say, I don't need this report anymore. And secretary continued to produce this report, an hour every single week producing this. And Gene says, I haven't seen that report for a year now. And just to think about the amount of wasted energy around that. But it's a really good story, because those sort of things, those sort of reports that you maybe asked a few years back that you don't need anymore, you make them redundant. You're able to bin them. But what other things are wasting time, energy, and money? So have a think around with your team. What are the things that are in the business? And to Ian's point, good to see you, Ian. Yeah, that book can be downloaded. Again, when I go back through the notes at the end, I'll send everybody a link to Paul Akers' book on 2 Second Lean. So the final area of the 5 C's really right now, and I think all of us have this notion that it makes sense to keep calm, to be kind right now, to be considerate of others. It was just amazing last night, pretty emotional really, when we saw the UK, the nation, sort of come as one at 8 o'clock last night to show consideration of the NHS, and it just shows what can be done. So I think right now, when everything seems like a melting pot of chaos all around us, I think those people can keep calm, have a generous spirit to others, be abundant in giving back, being considerate to others will prevail. I'm absolutely convinced of it. But sometimes it can be difficult. It can be really, really difficult to keep calm when deep inside, you don't have the answers for everything. You need deep down inside, you're churning up, you're boiling up. The world doesn't make sense. And I think right now it's having some coping strategies around that. So that's probably why areas like being mindful, having some mindfulness, to be able to breathe, and having some breathing techniques right now to just take a couple of deep breaths, just to recenter yourself, just to ground yourself again when you're churning up inside. Smiling, just smiling at the world. I think one thing we are seeing right now is, in this horrific time, there's lots of humor and fun and banter that's coming around. It sort of keeps us going. But I think just making sure that you remain mindful, and if you do struggle somewhat, if you are finding it difficult to keep calm, or you find yourself anxious or getting stressed, is just again be able to either practice some meditation, or start learning how to practice meditation, and to get more of a peaceful mind around you. With a peaceful mind, you're able to make more decisive decisions. The decisions become clearer. You may be not doing a knee-jerk reaction around that. I think as well, it's so important that you look after number one. I think the old adage of, you know, putting your oxygen mask on first so you can best serve others is so important right now. But it's important that you're able to maintain your own energy. It's important that you're able to maintain your own focus. So if anything, I'd urge you all to be able to make sure you're getting good sleep, probably better sleep than ever. I know it's really difficult because there's lots of things going on in your mind, but being able to sleep well, eating well, absolutely, right now, doing those things, keeping fit, and having that, and yeah, almost getting yourself into routine. I think what's very disabling for a lot of people right now, and I think a lot of your colleagues and a lot of your team members will be finding this, is how difficult is it to get into routine. You may find it yourself. It's, you know, the business as usual of going to the office, driving in, doing this and doing that, it's changed. So your normal routine is just being put out the window. So how do you go about resetting and kind of getting into a new routine, a new focus, you know, that you're able to, your meditation, making sure you're communicating, doing the huddles, when you're going to be, you know, connecting with customer, whatever it is, but having that routine in place and helping your team members have a routine. I think because they are, for a lot of them, being disabled right now in terms of how they've gone about their work, is helping them get back into routine as well. Certainly if they've got lots of distractions and kids and all these things, I'm convinced that, you know, it's quite, of the last week, it's kind of quite novel to be working at home again, and it's quite novel to be doing with things, but novelty will soon wear away, and then there'll be a new sort of norm, and then that's how you settle into that, and to get into discipline and focus of having a routine, of focusing on what you need to get done every day, having breaks at the right time, going out with your one walk a day, obviously, with a dog, whatever you need to do, but you know, having that routine of keeping physically fit. You know, good news is, from our perspective, we can't go to our personal trainer anymore, but he can be his personal training to us, and we can keep that going through. So I think urge you to having that routine free. Just like John Grisham, many of us have probably read John's great books, but you know, it wasn't any fun having to get up at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock, but it was a habit, and it came to be part of his daily routine. That's when he wrote his best work. When do you do your best work? When did you get into that routine? And now I might actually bring Stuart in right now, because he's a master of these particular areas. So Stuart, you can come off mute for a second, about wellness and sort of, you know, making sure that we build up our immune systems, that we are getting as much vitamin C inside us. What other thoughts you got right now, Stuart, to make sure that we preserve our health and we as well as we possibly can be?
Well, the one I've taken up at the moment, which is slightly extreme, is cold showers. In terms of having a hot 2 minutes followed by cold 2 minutes, do that sort of 3 times, ending with the actual cold. It's the surest way to go and boost that immune system.
And why does a cold shower boost the immune system?
Good question. Not quite so sure on that one. Don't know the science behind it. Maybe somebody else in the call does, but apparently, you know, it's fairly sort of proven. But having that cold shower as well, interesting enough, it also forces you to get into habit and getting outside your comfort zone. So for me, in terms of having that cold shower first in the morning, I tell you, I'm a hell of a lot more alert when I actually come to sit at my desk and start working than I would have been without that cold shower.
Yeah, and I think it's I do the same, by the way, but I haven't tried the I do it for about a minute on cold, right at the very end. I haven't sort of gone back into warm and then cold again. But I listened to Tony Robbins last week, and he talked about doing just that. And I think it's one of those things again that it's putting yourself into a place where it's outside your comfort zone as well. You do it for a while, and that's one thing. But yeah, it's definitely anything I can do right now to improve my immune system is critical for me, because I struggle. I'm flying a lot. I'm able to pick up anything. Interestingly, we've got Reiki Shah just said, I tried this, but lasted 10 seconds. So, you might just need to do a few more than 10 seconds just to get the real benefits. But I also went into Costco a few weeks back and got stacks and stacks of lemons. So I have a hot lemon every single day with some ginger, and I think that seems to work quite well for me. Having a high dose of vitamin C, you get vitamin C tablets, but I think doing whatever you can do to stay well, to have your daily dose of vitamin C is quite critical. But let's just sort of finish up almost with Jim Collins. I think in terms of these sort of quotes here, it keeps coming back to this notion that it's a conscious choice being great, but also of discipline. And going back to what we talked about right at the beginning of this webinar about the importance of excellence right now, importance of our own personal discipline, importance of us being role models in what we do, importance of the focus in terms of what needs to get done, importance of discipline to make those calls when maybe we don't want to, the discipline of having that cold shower, then maybe we don't want to have a cold shower, the discipline of continuing to work. These are all traits of really, really great people. And I think that's the sort of thing that we can take away from that to be the role models that our customers, our colleagues, and our team members deserve. We've got to be really, really on top of our game and have that level of discipline to step up. And right now, think about yourself. How can you be the very best CEO that there is, or how can you be the very best MD, or how can you be the very best leader that there is out there? Because if you want to 10x your company, first up, you've got to 10x yourself. And right now, over these coming months, there's perfect opportunity to say, right now, I'm going to grow. I'm going to grow myself. I'm going to be the best I can be. I'm going to look at the ways of improving myself every single day. I want to be better than I was the day before. And do you know what? I would love that to be in the team as well. So again, by being the leader and inspiring them to want to grow themselves, they've got a perfect opportunity over the coming months, to start reading again, to start watching videos, to start improving themselves. As Eric Schmidt said, Eric was the CEO of Google for many years. And for him, part of his growth and part of his staying on top of the game was just finding the time to read. So it could be very easy for us to kind of go into the coming months of multiple channels and backstories of multiple series of whatever it is on TV. Or you could commit yourself to say, actually, I'm going to grow myself, dig into where I can improve myself in leadership. How can I improve myself in marketing? How can I improve myself in becoming better at selling or customers, whatever it is, taking that time to read. So with that in mind, that gives us a few minutes to sort of open up to some questions and answers. Touch wood, the technologies work so far, so very grateful in this trial run that everything is working through. But yeah, just either put a question in the chat or just have a shout out, and we can see how we can help one another. So anyone got an observation or things that they're doing right now that might be able to help others?
It's all gone quiet.
Who's that?
Hi Neil, it's Ian.
Hi Ian. Ian, what are you doing right now? What are you doing in terms of in your business, and what are a couple of top tips that you'd have?
Well, great. I'm just sat here with Harry as well. I think you can remember Harry, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, he's been sat here with me. So you found it interesting, this?
Yeah, very interesting.
I know you've always found Neil's work and talks quite interesting. Yeah. Coming back to your question, Neil. Yeah, we've sort of taken the opportunity to to do a bit of resetting, to be quite honest. Obviously we've got some immediate issues to deal with by closing down the sites and making those safe. That was the first priority. Yes. But going on from that, there's an opportunity to reset, to do some spring cleaning, to get some stuff in order. And while we're flying at 150 mile an hour, you tend to forget one or two bits and bobs, or maybe you don't perceive things to be quite as important as probably they should be. So, yeah, we're just mopping up some peripheral areas and bringing those in, and perhaps adjusting some systems and whatever, along with all the other emergency stuff that we're trying to contain at the moment. So, yeah, it's and it just gives you a little bit of time to breathe that maybe at times we haven't had. So, yeah, and to take stock of really humanity and really going off. Yeah,
beautiful. Thanks, Ian. Chris, what are you up to?
Well, Neil, thanks very much for the seminars. As ever, it's really uplifting and inspiring to hear all these messages. I think there's two things I wanted to say. One big thing and one small thing. We've obviously started increasing our huddles and so on. So we've now got a directors huddle every morning.
Good.
We're having some fairly difficult discussions. The business is fine at the moment, but we can see trouble, ahead. So we're starting to think about difficult things, and I'll be honest, sometimes you get some differences of opinion. But what we've come back to, and Mark, the MD, is really good at this, is saying, no, let's think about our values. What do our values tell us we have to do? And that just adds a clarity to the thinking process. So really recommend and reinforce your statements earlier on about the core values being of crucial importance. So that was the big thing.
Thank you. And am I right thinking that Mark is doing a daily email to the whole of the company?
He does. Every evening he's sending out an email with just some thoughts, whatever's pertinent to the day, maybe a bit of guidance that he's picked up, or just the other day he said, look, don't forget to take your holidays. He says, I'm having a day off.
Yeah.
Take your holidays. Have some quality time with your children, who are also stuck at home with you. Yeah. So yeah, that was one of the things he said. Yeah. The small thing that came to my mind is that today we've been using online meetings because our people are quite dispersed across the country for a very long time, obviously much more intensely now. We never used the video until today. The meeting we had this morning, we all had our videos on, and the difference it made surprised me. It shouldn't have done really, because if you're in a meeting room, we're all sat around looking at each other. So this is what we're trying to recreate, and it definitely improved things. So that's my learning. That's my first easy learning for today.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And just like Mike does a sort of daily email, there's the guys I was with on Tuesday. Sam does a daily video just where he's walking a dog. He kind of just has his iPhone out the side and just talks for 2-3 minutes about what's on his mind. Speaks pretty candidly about what's happening, but just reinforces what's on his mind and just acts as a cheerleader. And I think people really appreciate that. So that's great to see. Why didn't we have it here from Julie Hedge? Julie, in terms of from a marketing perspective, if you're still with us, are you able to come off mute and then talk about what sort of things you're seeing right now?
Hello, Neil and everybody. Probably had some hesitation, because I think when there's a survival mindset, expansion isn't necessarily uppermost in people's priority list. So I think as a marketing company, we need to be sensitive to that. But I have done some, if you like, messages of support, alignment really with where people are. So a demonstration of empathy or empathic understanding, shall I put it in those terms? What in terms of actions we can take? I don't know, if I'm honest, it's kind of a pause at the moment, really, to see what happens and how things pan out. With the uncertainty on the timing, it's really quite difficult for everybody to make plans at the moment. I don't know what else to say beyond that, really.
Well, thank you for that contribution. That makes a lot of sense. let's bring in Yvonne again then, in terms of Yvonne come off mute for a second, and we talked a bit earlier on about what you did to looking after customers. What are you doing in terms of with the team right now? Where's your focus, Yvonne?
Hi everyone again. My focus right now is communication. So even with the employees that I've had to put on as furloughed workers, remaining in constant contact with them via WhatsApp without being annoying.
Yes.
So I'm reminding myself that they're actually not at work, but they have requested regular communication just to still feel part of the team.
Yes.
A couple of months ago, if I'm honest with everyone here on this webinar, I was questioning my team's loyalty and whether they actually cared about the business or not. Past 2 weeks, I've learned more about my employees in 2 weeks than I have done in 2 years. It's been an absolutely eye-opener with the amount of support from them personally. Even their partners have texted me to say, the girls have got your back, Yvonne, we're with you all the way, stay positive. And it's been a real eye-opener and a real eye-waterer. They've seen a very different side of me as I have with them. So in this really bad situation, there has been some really good moments.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think you're right. It's these times when, you know, as humans, it shows the best in us and probably sometimes maybe the worst in us. But I think it's, if you, as Chris was saying a few minutes ago, if you live as a role model by, you know, strong values and stuff like that, when it comes to these tough times, and you're surprised when that loyalty you built up that maybe you didn't realize, but you built up over the time, really starts paying back and paying back in spades. So it's that's great. Who else have we got? Reiki, let's bring you in for a second. You know, just I know you work with an organization that's doing a few more of these sort of webinars as well. How are you seeing things with your community right now? And what are you doing to help?
Yeah, so two things that I want to share. So on the business side right now, we're really looking at how can we connect with our community? How can we build a deeper relationship with them, and how can we serve them?
Yeah.
Obviously, everything offline is sort of up in the air and events are being cancelled. So it's more about how can we bring things online and build a more personal relationship with them. So that's something that we're focusing a lot right now, and just adding value to them a lot more than selling. I think right now it just doesn't feel kind of like the right time to just be to be selling. So we're focusing more on just community.
Yeah.
And I think, just to add in, if I can, on a personal side, this whole situation I feel has given me a lot of perspective. And I think what I'm starting to see is we take a lot for granted, and it's just making me more appreciative of, you know, just the easy access we have to everything, and how easy our lives kind of are. I think it's hugely giving me perspective.
Yeah, no, it's huge. Yeah, that's such a wonderful point. And I think that notion again about community, I think as humans, we would crave community, but we certainly really benefit from having a community around us. And I think whatever we can do to foster our community and be like that is spot on. Okay, John, just going to bring you in right now. Going to take you off mute and sort of you know, just reflect some of the other advice that might be out there. John, JBEO, to come on.
All right. Yes, I've attended a couple of seminars and calls around so many of the population are working from home for the first time. Now, there's plenty online, there's masses online about working from home, but there's very little about actually providing leadership from home, which is quite a different thing. And there's mostly leaders on this call. So 2 or 3 things that I've been trying to do myself and pick up are making sure we are setting expectations of our people.
What's he getting to the hospital or something?
You still there, Neil?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, sorry. Make sure we're setting objectives and laying out the expectations of what we expect them to be doing, bearing in mind they'll be working in a scenario, making sure we are trusting our staff and remembering that they're good staff in the office and in the work environment. They'll be just as good, if not better, working from home. But trust is a two-way thing. You got to trust them, but they have to trust us as leaders. So there's a lot of listening to be done, empathizing with people's different scenarios, and things like recognizing good behaviors and good outputs, and indeed rewarding them and celebrating them at the same time. And as someone said already, increasing communication at this time is critical, because you've got a bunch of people who are normally used to being around a lot of people who are now stuck in their house, probably surrounded by family and kids and all sorts of scenarios that they're not used to, sitting at a dining room table or something, trying to do their work. So having a bit of empathy is key. From my perspective, personally, it's making sure that I've learned all the verses to Baby Shark, which has been very important for my grandchildren.
Yeah, I think absolutely you're spot on there. And I've actually having both daughters back home right now, and I think Emily, our eldest daughter, just got picked up the other day by her boss for just making one tiny spelling mistake. And I mean, Buster got to do something, and it was needing that. You need that empathy rather than to be sort of micromanaged right now, and knowing that people aren't necessarily having a particularly good time. So I think yes, absolutely bang on. The only person we haven't heard from right now, and whether you want to have it contribution, Martin, is just your thoughts. If you want to to join, just to share some thing, then that's fine. So I'll just give you a second if you want to. Come on that. Okay, you got to go now. That's fine. Okay, great. So I think we're just at the top of the hour now. So what I'd like to say first up is a big thank you for everyone to joining me today on this sort of not quite a dummy run, but it's been a kind of a dress where I've never done anything like this before, and sort of navigating where you go and find with the chat area and the Q&A and how to do a polling with good friends sort of mainly on board has been really good, because I think as said earlier on, sometimes you got to take yourself out your comfort zone and do things you've never been doing before, and this is one I've never done before, but then it gives you courage to know that you can do this for hundreds of people and hopefully make a difference to hundreds of lives, and give them a bit of hope and give them some direction. So it's certainly been more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. I was kind of a bit nervous beforehand to doing this, but thank you for that. Thank you. Any sort of that night. Thanks, Ian, for your contribution there. It's very, very kind. It's something that I'll be looking to do more of, because I think it's just so important right now that we're all part of a community. We all believe in our businesses. A lot of us are from around Derby. We want to be around for many years to come, and we want to be around employing more great people. We want to be around helping more people. I think that's the spirit of what we do, and what gets us out of bed every single day and gives us strength. So I think with that, I'll wish you all an opportunity to stay safe. Absolutely. Keep safe, everyone. Keep doing what you're doing right now. Let's keep talking. Let's keep contributing. And hopefully let's keep scaling. So have a good weekend, and
thank you, Neil.
Wish you well.
Neil.
Thanks, Neil. Bye.
Bye.